Hi guys, I'm Coach Amy. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a PhD student of Integrative and Functional Nutrition, minoring in mind-body medicine. I'm also a holistic health coach who specializes in weight loss with pre-diabetic clients. Also, I'm the founder of Culinary Medicine for Everyday Living YouTube channel, which I highly suggest you check out. In addition, I am a certified personal trainer, and over the last 10 years, I've worked in various capacities in the health and wellness field, from the personal trainer, swim instructor, a Tai Chi instructor, healthy children, after school programs, and even an analytical chemist for a few years in the pharmaceutical industry. But above all else, I have journeyed from being the poster child for what not to do if you want to be healthy, right? So I have journeyed from being completely unhealthy to where I am today. And that's a little bit about me. Today, though, is part 2 of a series where I'm covering different strategies that are research-based for approaches to weight loss. So today I'll be talking about the low fat approach. Yesterday we spent some time on the low carbohydrate approach. So I will also be covering low calorie approaches, highly restrictive caloric diets, the Mediterranean diet, which I'm going to touch on a little bit today. I have a lot of research included and crammed into today's discussion. And the last thing that I'll be covering at the end of this series is intermittent fasting. My intention is for you to learn about the research, right? We get so confused, and the fact of the matter is there's research to support all of these approaches, and often it takes a combination of many or more than one of these, and sometimes it takes strategic planning from one approach moving into another approach. So my intention is for you to have a little bit of clarity so that you know what the best steps might be based on your body. While you're learning about this, keep that all in mind. And also, I want you to keep in mind that the key to long-term success is including physical activity. I'm going to touch on that every single day, because if you want to lose weight long-term and you want to do with what's proven to work, it's finding those that exercise that works for you. And I decided yesterday, after I finished this, that at the end of this series, I will do another talk. I'll move right into talking about physical activity and the different types that you can incorporate, and their different metabolic influences on your body in your weight loss journey. So, but with all of that, today we are focusing on a low fat approach. So last week on Thursday, I looked at a Stanford study that compared a low fat to low carbohydrate diet. And the results of that study shows that there was not a significant difference between the two diets when it comes to weight loss. They essentially lost about the same amount of weight. The thing to keep in mind with that study is they did instruct the participants to, whether it was low fat or low carb, they instructed them to eat your vegetables, right? Maximize your amount of vegetables, minimize the amount of refined sugar and refined grains. That's your white pasta, your white bread, and your sugars. Reducing that, focusing on maximizing vegetables. And when they did that, they had essentially, it was very close range of weight loss. So a side note that was really interesting in the study that I'm just going to bring forth and touch on, it doesn't have to do with low fat or low carb, but part of that study, they actually told those participants, don't worry about calorie counting. And then they had 2 sessions a month over a year's time. The first month, they kind of just was like an introductory, where they just entered the study, and then starting in the second month, they had bi-weekly meetings where they were learning about nutrition. The interesting thing is that even though they were told not to reduce their calories, both groups had an average reduction in their daily calories by like 500 to 600 calories a day, which is what research supports a pound a week loss. So they were instructed not the calorie count, and yet when they were provided the education, they were in this weight loss study, just by having that intention alone and the education and the support of the classes that they were taking, they still reduce their calories, which of course is a strategy that supports weight loss, right? There is some calories in, calories out. Like a reduction in calories does work, while it's not so cookie cutter because we are bio individual. And I will also have another talk about why our body's ability and survival mechanisms sometimes work against us in the weight loss. And that is also why these strategies, it sometimes takes a strategy, like a strategic approach between them. But back to the low-fat diet and the research surrounding the low-fat diet. So low-fat diets, for as long as I can remember, have been recommended, and there's a reason for that. So the first reason is fat is more filling than carbohydrates. They satiate us more so than carbohydrate. Or sorry, fat is less satiating than carbohydrates. And part of this is because gram for gram, there are more calories in fat. And so sometimes we can overconsume calories without realizing it when we're focused on a high-fat diet. So that is one of the theories behind a low-fat diet. The second is that fat has been shown to be digested more quickly, more efficiently than carbohydrates, which leads me to my next point. Carbohydrates actually take more energy to burn. So not only gram for gram do they have less calories per gram, you burn more calories digesting carbohydrates than you do fat. And that's called the thermogenesis, and it's actually why each calorie is not created equally, right? There's an energy expenditure in your body, like to digest, and that burns calories. So and the other thing is there is some preliminary research that indicates that a high-fat diet could cause damage to your digestive tract, in addition to throwing out your balance of good bacteria versus bad bacteria, something that we know in the nutrition world as dysbiosis. That's something that we're just learning about. And again, this is preliminary research. We need to know more. We don't know. We don't have research surrounding the long-term effects of high-fat or ketogenic diets, and so we're continuing to learn on that. But however, with fat being more energy dense, and sometimes we can eat more calories without realizing it, and then we know that carbohydrates take more to burn, it sounds really good, right? However, the research fails to consistently support the fact that a low-fat approach is more superior. The research just doesn't support it. Circling back first on that Stanford study, which shows that there wasn't really a significant difference between either approach when you approach it from a healthy diet, nutrient dense, right? Focusing on those vegetables, minimizing those refined sugars and carbohydrates, right? So that is one thing that all nutritional professionals do agree on, no matter what stance they've taken in their practice, right? But I'd also like to go back to a Harvard Medical School study that found that low-fat diets might be actually less effective in achieving long-term weight loss rather than a low carbohydrate diet. And then yet another study in Italy, and I'm going to post all these below for those of you who are into science and want to look at this stuff, the stuff that I'm talking about. The study in Italy compared a low carb Mediterranean diet versus a low-fat diet. And they found, and they were looking at patients who had recently been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and they found that the patients on the low-carb Mediterranean diet had a greater reduction in their A1C overall. They had a higher rate of remission, those who were able to reverse their type 2 diabetes. And then the others, there was also a delayed need for diabetes medication, because once you've been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, the first approach is always a lifestyle approach that is, a multi-team, multi-aspect, right? You're looking at your entire lifestyle and creating new habits. So what are today's takeaways surrounding low-fat diets? One, low-fat diets work. And there's theory behind it. They work, and some research even says as effectively as a low carb approach, so long as you focus on those vegetables and minimizing the sugar and refined grains, like your white grains or white grains or white bread, white pasta. And then a low-fat approach, and this is circling back to yesterday's talk, so if you weren't here for the low-carb talk, you can find it on my YouTube channel or on my Facebook page. But those with familial hypercholesterolemia are not recommended to do high-fat. So a low-fat approach obviously would be something that those with the genetic predisposition to have high cholesterol would want to seek out the low-fat approach. And then number three, the research surrounding the optimal approach is mixed, and often, again, as I stated in the introduction, the right approach can be a combination or a strategic application. And of course, there's a whole lifestyle approach that accompanies these dietary approaches, but the focus of these talks are on what you can do with your diet, your nutrition, your food. And so, which leads me to why working with a knowledgeable coach or practitioner or doctor or a registered dietitian, nutritionist, someone knowledgeable who knows the ins and outs of metabolism and the way nutrition works, as well as physical activity and how our body's biochemistry works, is important to get that support and that knowledge, someone who can guide you and teach you how to do this for yourself, because at the end of the day, that is where the long-term success happens, is when you learn enough to be able to do this on your own. So contact me if you're interested in having that free consultation, 45 minutes, 50 minutes of my time. We sit down completely free, go through a consultation, look at what's worked, what hasn't worked, where you are, where you want to be, what the goals are, and how we may work together and support you. Together, we'll work and find out what's best for your body and start implementing those weekly habits to help you reach your long-term goals. So private message me ASAP, and I'll see you tomorrow when I talk about the Mediterranean diet approach, which is often the diet that has the most longevity, and the Diabetes Association recommends it. So I'm excited about tomorrow's talk on the Mediterranean. Also, don't forget to send me a message so we can have that consultation. And I'll see you tomorrow, guys. Thank you for joining me. Bye for now.